So this is my very first illustration for the next Years of Wonder World calendar. The theme for next year is birds, as you can probably guess by just looking at this painting. So you're going to be seeing a lot more birds than just this one. Here I first started the painting by adding some masking fluid for snowflakes and some snow on the branch where the bird is sitting, and after letting it dry I started the painting. The first layer that I paint is always pretty messy, but I like it that way. I think that's a main part of the magic of watercolor, the way you can spread it, which I particularly like to do when I'm painting the very first layer. Like you can see here with the bird, the yellow and the black, I let the colors mix properly and make these soft, beautiful effects. Something that I really, really love about watercolors is these kind of effects that it makes. So I like to play around with them. Here I start to paint the background. The background in this painting doesn't have anything too concrete in the background. It's just splashes of color, basically different hues mixed together, but I wanted it to have this wintry feeling, obviously, because it's winter and it's snowing. I didn't want the background to be too dark, kind of like these snowy, brisky winter day. So I paid attention to not make it too dark. That was something that I remember constantly kind of reminding myself when I was painting, that I should not put too much color, leave it quite light. And then of course I'm adding some salt on the watercolor when it's still wet to create the frozen effect. What else can I call it? I don't know. I'll just call it frozen effect. Get this kind of icy pattern that it creates. So that's what I was using the salt for. I used also these big sea salt grains, and then just regular salt that I have in the kitchen that I use for my cooking, to have them more like a finely ground salt, so that the effect, to achieve the kind of effect that I really wanted. Now we're getting to the more detailed work. With this kind of detailed work, it's a mixture of kind of like adding color and then blending it with the water to get the desired effect, to get the desired softness or hardness, depending on obviously what I would like to achieve. So if it's softness I want, then more blending with color. If it's a sharp edged shape, then you do not blend it with water. That's the beauty, the simplicity of watercolor is, when it's wet, that's when it blends and spreads around. But when the paper is dry, then you can get these sharp shapes and sharp edges and sharp lines. And when you know how to play with the two elements, you can basically create absolutely anything. At least that's how I feel. Here, actually, I struggled a bit with this wing to get the exact effect that I wanted. I needed to kind of erase it several times, the part that I was working on, and then try again, and then erase it again and try again, because the effect wasn't what I wanted. But you know, eventually I got it right. Here also I was constantly reminding myself to not make it too dark, because I remember in the past I sometimes I would make the mistake with these, how can I say, like lightly colored objects and lightly colored parts, that I would make the shades too dark, and then that would just no, it would not give the right vibe. But here again, with the yellow parts of the bird, I constantly remind myself that don't make it too dark, don't make it too dark. I kind of constantly checked on myself while I was painting to make sure that I wasn't using I used just a little bit of orange, this orange hue, but every time I was using it, I was very careful to blend it with yellow and not make it too strong, because again, that would have just that would not have produced the kind of effect that I knew that I wanted the bird to have, the kind of color that I wanted the bird to carry. Yes, and also with the white part of the face, I was so careful to not make it too dark. Just very, very light shadows. I used to make that mistake so many times in my past paintings, especially when it's these, you know, if it was like, let's say, I remember this particular white horse that I was painting, and man, I made those the shadows that I was painting, I made them way too dark. But you know, that's how you learn. Trial and error. You make mistakes and you learn from them. Yeah. Nothing much to say about painting the branch. It was very basic stuff, at least for me. I used, I think, 3 different browns, and then of course water to blend them in a way that I desired. I used this like a very red. I think it was actually more like red than brown, and then this. So I used sort of red, and then this reddish brown, and then this very dark brown. These 3 colors I used to paint the branch. I don't know the official names. I'll just describe them the way they look to me. That's something you will have to get used to when you listen to me talk about my paintings, because I never know the actual official names of the colors that I use. I just describe them the way they look to me. Oh, and here is the very satisfying part of rubbing off the masking fluid. And then some final details on the bird. Before shading the snow, which we start right now. Shading the snow is so easy. I think it's like the easiest thing in the world. But again, you gotta make sure that, at least I have to make sure that you don't make those shadows too dark. Unless, of course, it's a dark night with a full moon and you want to make very deep dark shadows. No, there is a time and place for that too. But with this painting, we want to keep the shadows light. And so that's what we did. Signature. And then, of course, one of my favorite things, beauty spots. That's what I call them. Beauty spots, meaning the final highlights with white gouache, little beauty dots. And with that, the painting will be finished. I am so very happy about how perfectly fluffy and cute this birdie came out. That's exactly how I wanted it to be. So very fluffy and so very cute, like it is supposed to be. Thank you for watching. See you next time.
You